Haley, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, we have a very exciting topic today, security.
It's exciting for me at least.
Security systems, which I get questions all the time on security systems and uh, what is needed, how to search. So I'm so happy that you're here to clear the air on a lot of questions that our listeners have.
I'm happy to. We've been in the cannabis industry for 13 years, and so we definitely have some good stories and great experience on how to help clients prevent some of the negative or not so fun aspects of it, and hopefully be able to successfully get open.
So, if I am a dispensary owner and I just got licensed, just got approved, when should I start thinking about security in relation to the build out?
I would say you're a little too late. No. Security, it's one of the first things I think you need to think of. Well, it kind of goes along with when you're selecting your location. Is it something that is going to require a ton of security? And when I say that, I mean, does it have a ton of little rooms? Or is it going to be kind of a rectangle? You're going to put some walls up, pretty straightforward. Most retail, you have, maybe your reception, you have your retail floor, secured storage, an office or two, a break room, restroom. That's pretty straightforward. But the more small rooms, awkward curves and turns that you have, it's going to make it a little bit more expensive, a little more challenging. So, kind of something to keep in mind. But right when you're in that selection of, okay, I found a location, now I need to start looking at budgeting and selecting vendors. And that's everything from your architect, general contractor, security vendor, IT, um, everything that really would be going on during the build out process.
How does how do dispensary owners know that what they're building out is compliant to the regs?
That's where we come in. It can be a challenge. And there have been a lot of floor plans that I've received from clients that said, hey, I want to be open in 2 months. I look at the floor plan and I'm like, well, you're missing your secured storage. So you're not going to pass. Or if it's something where, there are a lot of states that say you have to verify that the person is over 21 years of age before they're allowed to see any cannabis products, and that could even include signage. So what does that mean? Does that mean that you have to have somebody outside the front door? Or does that mean somebody standing at the front door right when you walk inside? Or does that mean it has to be its own room? So that's where we come in. A lot of the times we try to get clarification from regulators so that we can very clearly understand what they write. Sometimes it's not super clear, but that's again where we come in and we try to do the homework, and so that once we do get those questions, we're able to answer them for clients and say, "Hey, we already have clarification. This is what their expectations are. This is what you have to follow in order to be compliant."
And then you were mentioning issues with Minnesota today, right?
Minnesota has been a challenge. There's two regulations that they're just not very clear. One has to do with the alarm system and a backup alarm system. The other one has to do with the access control and the wording of it. But there's a lot of states. I can't remember which state it was, but there was one that said you have to keep 90 days of tapes. Now I'm in my 30s, but I don't think that we use tapes anymore for recording video. So some of them are a little outdated. I don't really know where they pulled them from, but yeah. So there's a lot of clarification needed in, I'd say, most states.
So what happens then if I'm a dispensary, I'm opening up in Minnesota? Do things just halt?
No, they don't halt. There's things that we can do. Lots of communication that I have between the regulators. There's some lobbyists that we'll reach out to, but we can still continue to move forward. So what I usually do is I'll say, this is our best case scenario. Here's our worst case scenario. And here's what to expect if that worst case scenario happens. So there's nothing that's blind about it. It's that full communication and understanding of what that looks like. And, we also will tell regulators, well, we might not have implemented this because you weren't very clear, but here's what we did do. So it's kind of like Massachusetts, they said that you had to have a backup alarm system. Aside from your primary alarm system that was installed by a secondary company, but an alternative is you could have a generator, which I think people should have generators anyways, because even beyond security, you've got to keep a lot of product at a certain temperature and humidity. So, just thinking about the overall operation, I don't think that I don't think you can get away with the knuckle busters that they used to have, whenever you lose the power and you still have to pay somebody out.
Oh, that's interesting. I actually never really thought about that. That backup generators, you would probably reduce your insurance costs too.
I would hope so. But a lot of insurance companies, if you have that communication, say I'm going above and beyond what the state's requiring or my local municipality, and they normally will work with you on that and give you some sort of deal.
You probably get this a lot. Uh, Probably every every single engagement. Why is it so expensive in the cannabis industry to
Well,
set up?
it's a challenging question. A lot of clients that, let's just say they own a business in a different industry, let's, just say a boutique clothing store, they have security. So it might be a basic alarm system, some cameras, maybe one over the cash register, but that's really about it. They probably don't have anything in the break room and sometimes not even on the outside of their building. There's no regulation or requirement for them to have anything. Their insurance might be pleased with them adding cameras and being proactive about their security, but there's no state regulatory body that comes in and says, this isn't sufficient. So when it comes to cannabis, it's very high risk. There's a lot of desirable product, cash. And so these regulations, they can make it pretty expensive. New York, they have an 8-hour backup battery requirement. That's a lot of money. That's thousands of dollars just for the battery. So that's not even including your alarm, your access control, or your video surveillance.
Aside from making sure that the minimum regulations are abide by, how should a a dispensary owner think about where to spend their money in a security system?
So there's a couple of ways that I go about this typically. So if I'm designing a client's floor plan, I'll put, okay, here's what's required and here's what's recommended and why. And most of the time they say, well, let's go with what's recommended. And then if we need to cut some costs, we know where we can. But other than that, it's the longevity of the equipment. How long will it last you? How long is your lease going to be? Or if you own the building, how long do you plan on staying open there? And if it's not a good warranty, then you should probably have some concerns about, am I going to have to replace equipment in 3 years? And if you do, then you have to either halt your business, the operations, or you have to have that technician escorted the entire time that they're there. And most of the time they won't come after hours, or you're paying a lot more for that. Usually quite a bit more to have it after operational hours. But then again, still, you would have to have an employee, somebody with management that's there escorting them through that process. So the quality of equipment and, really when you're selecting the security vendor is finding a partner, somebody that you trust. And if you think about it, your security systems, there's a lot of vulnerability there. So if you select a company because they were the cheapest one and they could get in and out in one day, well, when you call them 2 years later, do they pick up the phone and do they say, sure, I'll be there within a day or less? Maybe not, because they're quickly installing and moving on to the next project. So it's really somebody that you feel comfortable with and that can really get there in a timely manner. Because let's just say if you have a camera that goes down your secured storage, you really can't be operating. And you do have to report it to the regulatory body and say why it happened, what you're going to do to fix it, and how you'll prevent it from happening again. Well, if it happened to one camera, it could happen to another. So, and even though obviously with technology, that is a risk, it can happen. It really shouldn't happen that frequently. So, again, just good quality equipment and a partner that will get there and rescue you in one of those situations.
Do you have a do not touch these equipment list, equipment manufacturers list?
I do. I have a few. Without getting into it too much of my secrets, there are some that they have been rebranded over and over and over again for a reason.
Oh wow. I had no idea.
Yes. So they keep rebranding because they keep getting banned or they have gotten a bad reputation. And so they're like, okay, well, we're going to pay this company and we're just going to slap their name on it and call it a day. And luckily, Google is great and will tell you that
Mhm.
Just they have been
Yeah,
programmed. So yeah,
rebranded.
it helps to just do research before you go with any specific manufacturer. I mean, do homework on it. I
Mhm.
mean, again, Google's great, ChatGPT is great, but you can just say, what's the overall view of this? Is it user friendly? Are there any security concerns I should have about it? I mean, there's some manufacturers that they leave all of their programming information online that there's a hard reset code. And so if your technician does not change this, pretty much anyone could come in and do that. So yes, there's quite a few manufacturers that they're on my do not use list.
That's a really good point. What are some considerations that a somebody that's starting their dispensary, what should they have when picking maybe the vendor or the hardware or even the software?
They should have me. No, um, you know, I- in all seriousness, having a security consultant, I'm there to do that homework for them. And it's really one, I understand the majority of equipment that is typically proposed for cannabis. And if I'm not familiar with it, I get familiar with it. I also speak to multiple vendors on what their experience has been as far as installation, ongoing maintenance. Is it user friendly? And really understanding, if this is something that my client would be interested in. And at the end of the day, everyone wants it to be user friendly, of course. But I also I want to understand if there are any issues, and so we can prevent that because the worst thing or the worst phone call I ever get is really I hate my system. I wish I would have never gone with this. So if I can get ahead of it, prevent it, that's a very large part of it. And then if I'm going through and I'm vetting these security vendors, I do quite a bit of research on them and find out what their experience is, especially within cannabis. Newer states, a little more difficult because there might be a few or zero cannabis businesses that are open. But understand the regulations and the importance of being able to really assist their clients in a timely manner.
Mm. Is there Are there any considerations for, hey, you shouldn't spend your money on this when building out your store or setting up your system? Where can listeners save money?
So saving money, that's I don't hear that frequently for build outs, but I think kind of going back to the beginning of okay, here's my budget. Now, realistically, let's just say I'm going shopping. I say I have $100 to spend. Well, if I go through and I'm like, okay, well, I like this shirt and I like that shirt and I like that one, and then I get to the register and I'm at $100 in one. Well, I didn't do a good job. So we want to say my secret top budget is $100, but as far as my build out goes, we're gonna go with $70. And the whole purpose there is once you start your build out, there's a lot of things that do come up that are just not budgeted for. So I think one, what do I have to have in order to get open by this day? What do I have to have? What's required for regulations? And outside of even the cannabis regulations, what do I have to have for this local municipality? Oh no, I have to upgrade this so that it's accessible to, handicap or whatever it might be. So just really keep in mind that those things will come up. And then later on, you can reevaluate and see, okay, now I have this for my custom sign or for that really nice decor that I wanted. Because those things can be added later. And again, these things come up. So just really understanding the importance between what you have to have and then what would be great to have in the near future once you've made some money.
That's really sound advice, really, because what you have to have is needed to open the doors. And oftentimes we see entrepreneurs focus really on what's nice to have.
Oh yeah.
And and if you spend all your money on what's nice to have, you have to go back in there in the cold capital market to raise enough money to implement what you have to have. to start.
Well, and exactly. And a lot of the times when they go back and ask for money, they say, okay, let's see your budget sheet and what you've already spent it on. So if you've
Mhm.
spent it irresponsibly, the chances of getting an investor are going to be lessened quite a bit. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just really having a good understanding of, what is crucial to have. And then you can reevaluate and see what you have money for after that. But I mean, hey, a lot of our clients, they come in and, even if we start with them during the application phase, we'll say, what's the name of it? And I mean, I've had a client who herself, she drew up her entire design for the dispensary and it was beautiful. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. And it had these floral arrangements on the ceiling. But I mean, her vision really came through. And with many of our clients, they have this vision. They don't want the cookie cutter anymore. They don't want, the Apple store. They want it to be something unique. And especially in some states, they're like, I want it to be something local. I'm, raised here and I want to represent my state or my city or my township and make it something that's unique. And so, I mean, the visions are great, but it can get very, very pricey.
Yeah. So what are some of the hiccups that you see happen if I want my plan is to have my store open in 2 months? What are some of the hiccups that may prevent me from doing so?
A couple things. So, scheduling can be a challenge. If you have a general contractor, which we hope that you do, I've had some clients who are their own, which, can be very difficult, but if they have that experience, totally different. Um, but your general contractor, they have a schedule and there's a lot of vendors that need to go on that schedule for a reason. You don't want to have all the trades in at one time. Everyone's stepping over each other. And I've seen it where we've had projects rushed. And I mean, there were 10 ladders and people, walking under and around and over. And it's a mess and it's a hazard. So making sure that that schedule is clear and that you have all of your vendors lined up with your general contractor, have them all on one email, have construction calls. And so if there's any delays, everyone else knows and just knows when to expect to be able to pick back up. But that's probably one of the biggest delays that I see. And then the second one is when it comes to demolition, it can be one of two things: great, clean, ready to go, or completely messy, mold, mildew, asbestos. And that just brings about a whole nother issue, a whole nother cost, and lots of delays.
Wow. So anytime you're breaking down a wall, brace yourself. That's what you're
Brace yourself.
saying.
You never know what's on the other side of it, especially in some older buildings. We've opened over 40 locations in New Jersey, and then I can't even keep count for New York. But those older buildings, that was
Yeah.
kind of where we've seen more of the issues. And especially as you get closer to the water, or if they're in a flood zone, the flood zone has been probably one of the biggest challenges I've seen for my clients. And I feel awful for it because I mean, there's only so much you can really do to avoid that without getting records on it and doing all of your homework, which takes a lot of time, can take some money. So yeah, it can be a lot.
You know, I heard a big issue is pipes freezing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I live in Texas and we are not used to hard freezes by any means. And so, I mean, if you were to drive through downtown Dallas in the middle of an ice storm, you would see pipes bursting all over the
Yeah.
place because people don't know what to do. We're
Yeah.
not, we're not taught how to do this when growing up. So
Yeah.
it's an issue. Yeah.
There's so many. Okay, so we have we spoke about biggest hiccups. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen owners do in their build out?
I don't want to say there's been a lot, but I think one is I think when clients have gone overly cheap with the security vendor that they've selected, they've called me and said, I need somebody to come take this over. Well, I ask them, okay, what was the equipment that they ended up installing? And well, it's proprietary. And it can be a challenge to find somebody who can take over that equipment. And if we can't find anyone who can, then you have to rip out everything, replace it, which does not go over well with the regulatory body. So that's a really big challenge. And I've had others that they were open for a year or two, and then they said, "Hey, I mean, this equipment's not working. I need another security vendor. We're going to temporarily shut down, and so that we can just do this right." Well, we want clients to do it right the first time, and I understand budgets completely. I mean, it can be a challenge to open a business. I mean, it's not cheap, and unfortunately, cannabis is really not cheap to open in. And so, I think understanding the value of what you're spending and really just having that idea of, okay, I want this to work. I want to be comfortable with everything that I'm purchasing. And again, it's a lot of money. If it was a $5 camera, not a big deal. I mean, I have a Ring camera on my front door and I accidentally broke it when I moved from my apartment to my house. And I was like, it's just a Ring camera, not a big deal. But as far as these that go into dispensaries and cultivation facilities, it's hundreds of dollars. And so if you spend incorrectly, then you might be regretting that sooner rather than later.
So what do you mean by proprietary equipment?
That means that there's only certain people who can take it over. So trying to think well, a Ring camera, if let's just say if you monitored it and you were the only one who really monitored it. If I didn't like you and I needed to go and find somebody else, it would probably be a big challenge because there's nobody else who can take it over. And especially if it's equipment that I've had clients that they have from the security vendor, they had used equipment installed. There's no warranty.
Oh, pain.
If there is, it's got to be minor. And I mean, it can be very expensive to go and replace. So
would you say one of the things that you should consider when you're setting up your equipment is, can anybody take over? Really,
Yeah.
is it generic enough where anybody can take over and you can swap vendors if you choose to?
yes. And I mean, at least to where you can say, okay, I bet that there's quite a few here. And whenever I'm talking to clients, when we're going through the bid reviews and everything, I do tell them, this bidder, they proposed some proprietary equipment. So just keep in mind, if for some reason you weren't happy with them down the road, you would have to replace this, this, and that. But other ones I say, I mean, this manufacturer, they've got installers all over the United States or all over your state. So if you were unhappy at any point in time, no problem. I mean, that won't be an issue. And that's my recommendation typically is, you want to be able to have a backup.
Yeah, that flexibility is peace of mind.
Oh yeah.
Really.
Got to have that flexibility.
So after the build out and you selected the vendor, you built it out, what can an operator expect before the build out? What should you have in place? Sorry, not before the build out, before the doors open.
Before the doors open, it's the build out is a crazy time and there's just so much stress. And I know that clients, I mean, it's the only thing on their mind. And 99% of clients, it's not the only thing they're doing. They might have family, kids, they have another career. And so it's a lot to go through the build out process. And the inspection is very nerve wracking. So that's really, they've got tunnel vision through that whole process. And most of the time they're not thinking of anything else. So my biggest recommendation before you actually open the doors is, do you have your standard operating procedures in place? And that's not just for security, that's for everything. Do you have your training manuals for everyone? And have you got them trained? Do they know, oh my gosh, a big one. Do they know how to respond during armed robbery? Do they know where their panic buttons are? I mean, we've done risk assessments at a lot of locations and we've asked clients, where are your panic buttons, your hold up buttons? They say, what's that? I'm like, oh, yeah, you need to know where that is. And we hope that you never have to use it, but we want you to know where it's at no matter what. And so really the training, I mean, that data, I don't want to go too much in detail because I'd give away all of our secrets, but the day-to-day operations of opening and closing, I mean, those procedures are huge. Again, I mean, you are a targeted business going into cannabis. And so do you know how to open and close your store? It's not like opening, again, the clothing store. This is a very desirable location. So having all those in place, do you have your HR? Do you have your accounting? I mean, I had a client who was ready to open, and he called me and he said, "You didn't tell me I needed a bank." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's, he said I was going to pay my employees in cash, and I'm like, "Can't do that."
But you
So
hit the nail on the head. If you think about a dispensary is open, close, what is your vault, SOPs, your cash management, and then your inventory counts. And
an inventory is a
receiving
huge one
inventory,
of it.
selling inventory, counting inventory.
Are you doing it in house? Are you doing it third party? I mean, and there's a lot to think about. So my best recommendation for anyone who's even considering getting into the cannabis industry is go and talk to existing operators. Go and ask them what worked. Go and ask them what didn't work. Go and get the trade secrets because they're going to know better than anyone, and they're going to be able to tell you their pain points. And I promise each one of them is going to have a different pain point that really, really bruised them. So I think just being able to go and get that education from them and, partnering with the right people that you can have, hopefully a smoother process than a lot of people.
That's a really good tip because our industry, I feel as though because there's this mentality of us against the world. In a way, we're pushed against the wall. There's been so many regulations, so many hurdles that we have to overcome. That we're a brotherhood, a sisterhood, and people want to help other people.
They do. I see it a lot at trade shows.
Hmm.
I love when an operator has a booth and it's pretty much, hey, come and talk to me, and I saw this a lot at NECAN Boston. It's just, they're helping each other succeed, and it's not going against each other. It's let me tell you what went wrong here, and here's how you can avoid it. So definitely making those connections. The networking events are just the best for uh, meeting the right people.
Yeah. So we've talked about selecting. Actually, I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe we can talk through about why security systems are so expensive in the cannabis industry and what an operator can expect. Maybe we can pick a state, maybe Minnesota or Maryland, two states that are.
It's, I mean, it's a tough one, and there's so much that the pricing depends on. Now, our managing partner, Tony Gallo, okay, he would throw out a price. I'm not doing that. I get mad at him every single time he does that. Because here's my reasoning. A lot of clients have different expectations from their systems. There are some who want analytics, some who want some point of sale integration with their cameras. There are some that they want everything integrated, so they open one application. And then there are some that are just like, I want the cheapest possible. And that's something that I have to understand when I'm qualifying a client for who I'm going to include for their bids.
That's a really good point. So, what are the different types of features that you should consider when selecting a system?
I'd say, especially for dispensaries, it's how do you want to use it? We have clients who love analytics. I mean, love analytics, and they do the people counting, and they love to see the heat mapping to see where people are frequently going to in their dispensary. I'd say more so cultivation, having the virtual fence line. So even if you have a fence, if for some reason that has been breached and you have somebody on your property, but they've crossed this virtual fence line, it sends you an alert, lets you know somebody's on site. I mean, there's a lot of really cool analytics now. It comes with a cost
Hmm.
associated. And so there are clients who say, yeah, I want all the bells and whistles. We get the bids, and they're like, that is a lot more than I was expecting. And
Yeah.
so it is something that needs to, just keep it in mind. I mean, if you get a car and you want the seated and cooling seats and the moon roof, it's gonna be more expensive than your basic one. So, it's the more that you add on to it, the more expensive it'll be. But I just to give you a good idea. So, because I've done so many locations in New Jersey, I would say that the average dispensary is around 65,000 for all 3 of your systems. Um, Maryland has been a little bit less than that. Minnesota has been more. And funny enough, the clients that I've already worked with, they've wanted more of the bells and whistles. And we worked with one of the cities on their RFP, and we had the police department. We had, the chief of police was on the call with us and on the construction calls, and they wanted some license plate recognition, which I love. I mean, there are a lot of really cool analytics that you can use for these systems. And so when I do get somebody that's like, yeah, let's add that, we love security. We love to use it for things, it's really exciting, but again, it can get really expensive. So I think, again, whenever we are going through that qualifying process with a client, that's where I say, oh, you want license plate recognition? Okay. Have you had an understanding of kind of where that price point might lie? Because that can be a lot of money. How fast the car is going. I mean, it can be thousands of dollars of a difference. So I try to get ahead of that so there's not that sticker shock of, well, hold on, this is $200,000 more than I expected. I mean, I like to be realistic as soon as I can whenever we have this conversation.
Yeah, there are some really practical ones. The tying in your security system to your POS.
Yeah, it's great. And I mean, the reports that you can pull from that are super beneficial. Now use them, you're paying for it. But I mean, you can look at everything as far as, well, how come there was something rung up at 9:30, we close at 9, and then you see on the camera that there's nothing there. Oh, well, it wasn't that manager, it was that employee. So there's a lot of kind of going back, checks and balances of verification, which are really cool to be able to use for it.
Yeah, I heard it's really great for returns too.
Oh, I mean, returns, and then a previous client, they had an employee that did excessive discounts. Excessive, had lots of friends come see him. So being able to track those, and with cannabis, there's a lot of internal theft. And so if you can really have that verification between your point of sale and your video system, I mean, it's a great tool to have.
Yeah, that's one. If I was opening up a dispensary, that's definitely one that I would consider.
Oh yeah.
Depending on the cost. What else, Haley? Anything else you want to go through that we haven't spoken about?
I would just say, the number one thing that I would recommend is really getting involved in the industry as much as possible. There's a lot of online resources that could be used, but reaching out to the experts, and even if you don't need them yet, go ahead and start getting ideas of what that process looks like. I mean, I had a phone call with a client the other day that said, we want to open in 2 weeks. And I said, okay, have you ordered your security mesh yet? And they said, no. And I was like, well, you're going to need that, so understanding the timelines, how long should it really realistically take, and especially with ordering equipment that is manufactured specifically for your project. I mean, it takes time. And so understanding timelines, understanding budgets, and again, just getting involved and speaking to some existing operators, go and get as much advice as possible.
Haley, thank you so much. Before I let you go, where can our listeners find you?
So if you just go to our website, sapphirerisk.com, SAPPHIRERISK.com. We've got our email so that you can contact us directly, or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Which states are you live today? Are you guys live nationwide?
Nationwide.
Guys, contact Haley, wealth of knowledge. You won't regret it. She'll probably save you thousands of dollars.
Not more.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Our weekly Budtender Spotlight celebrates people that truly make dispensaries go. This week's winner, nominated by Jonathan, is Matthew Sullinger from Vibe by California in Ukiah. Matthew's lively personality has customers coming back because of his genuine connection he builds. He goes out of his way with thoughtful gestures and ensures every customer leaves happy. Congratulations, Matthew. If you have an exceptional team member you want to nominate, please check out the Budtender Spotlight section on Kaya Push. We announce winners every week. Winners receive a $50 gift card as well as a personalized certificate highlighting their achievements.
Thanks for listening to the KayaCast podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcast app, or visit our website to access the full archive of episodes from the show.